Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover. We're also going to be joined by Christopher Wise. He's got a new song out called Christmas in Jail. He's a blues musician. I think you're going to enjoy it. Just something a little bit different this time of the year. We don't have as many guests. It's just the nature of the kind of the news cycle around this time of year. So I thought we'd change it up a little bit. All right, let's go to some viewer comments and then get into the breaking news of the day. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. I didn't get this posted yesterday, but I wanted to chime in on it. I've heard it all now. Everyone's favorite hero, Trump, says Rob Reiner and his wife died of Trump derangement syndrome. How wrong and how rotten. How disgusting can one person be? It's not like Trump is already losing support across the board. Then he pulls a stunt like this to get some attention. For those of you who still support Trump and everything rotten he stands for, you need help just like he does. It's a shame when the spotlight isn't on him. He makes me ill. Continuing, and unemployment is up to 4.6%. That's a 4-year high. The person that reported these numbers will get fired. Well, where are those Epstein files? Do they need more time to redact more of the info about Trump? I'm sure. After all, he is the FIFA Peace Award winner. It's been years of the Epstein. I don't know. Is that why they didn't do anything with him in the 4 years under the Biden administration? I know we've talked about that before, Rick. Pete won't leak the video of the boat bombing to anyone. Must be he didn't do anything wrong. That's all I can come up with. Comment from a different viewer. So it looks like with the heavy traffic, the security badge access might have been compromised, allowing the shooter to enter. That's at Brown University, because we had some back and forth wondering about the security on campus. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of updates. Everybody's hitting all the topics already. Mark writes in, good morning. Good morning, Mark. I see Elon Musk has begun funding Republicans for the 2026 midterm elections. That's very big news that came out yesterday. And Rob Reiner's son has retained famed defense attorney Alan Jackson. Thank you very much. All right. Before we get into some of the breaking stories, listen to this. The last ever minted U.S. pennies. The last ever. Imagine what they went for. If you just had to guess, the last ever minted U.S. pennies. They went for $16.7 million at auction. It was for a 232 three-coin set. What? The millions were doled out for 232 three-coin sets. Okay. Marking the highest value auction of special coins sold on behalf of the U.S. Mint. The 232nd set, containing the last pennies ever made before their discontinuance, sold for an eye-watering $800,000, the last 3 pennies. The sets featured a 2025 penny struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a 2025 D penny struck at the Denver Mint, and a historic 2025 penny struck in 24-karat gold, also at the Philadelphia Mint, according to the statement. Again, I just wanted to mention $16.7 million for the last pennies ever minted. All right. Trump yesterday added 5 new countries to the travel ban, imposing restrictions on 15 others. The move is part of an ongoing effort to tighten U.S. entry standards for travel and immigration. The decision follows the arrest of an Afghan national suspect in the shooting of 2 National Guard troops over Thanksgiving weekend. In June, President Trump announced that citizens of 12 countries would be banned from visiting the U.S., and those from 7 others would face restrictions. The decision resurrected a hallmark policy from his first term. At the time, the ban included Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, and heightened restrictions on visitors from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. On Tuesday, the Republican administration announced it was expanding the list of countries whose citizens are banned for entering the U.S. to Burkina Faso, Mali, South Sudan, and Syria. The administration also fully restricted travel on people with Palestinian Authority-issued travel documents. I'm not even going to try to read the other 15. The Trump administration said in its announcement of the expanded travel ban that many of the countries from which it was restricting travel had, quote, widespread corruption, fraudulent or unreliable civil documents, and criminal records that made it difficult to vet the citizens for travel into the United States. The restrictions and limitations imposed by the proclamation are necessary to prevent the entry of foreign nationals about whom the United States lacks sufficient information to assess the risks they pose, garner cooperation from foreign governments, enforce our immigration laws, and advance other important foreign policy, national security, and counterterrorism objectives. Trump also ordered yesterday the blockade of oil tankers from foreign terrorist organizations, Venezuela, and demands the regime cede its oil and its land. Saying on Truth Social, today I'm ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. America will not allow criminals, terrorists, or other countries to rob, threaten, or harm our nation, and likewise will not allow a hostile regime to take our oil, land, or any other assets, all of which must be returned to the United States immediately. While it's not fully clear what stolen oil and land the president is referencing, Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez, nationalized some oil fields and essentially took over stakes from foreign companies like ExxonMobil. Venezuela has the largest known oil reserves on the planet, producing roughly 1 million barrels a day, though the regime has been largely cut off from the global markets due to the U.S. sanctions. As a result, the country has sold much of its oil through the black market in China at a deep discount. Trump's directive comes about a week after his administration seized that sanctioned oil tanker near Venezuela's coast. Who was it that I saw? Well, let me continue. Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before. This is in reference to the illegal drug boats. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from those stolen oil fields to finance themselves, drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. At the moment, the U.S. is known to have at least 10 Navy ships, an aircraft carrier, and amphibious assault ships in the region. Now, that ties in with Pete Hegseth, we're going to talk about in a moment. But because of that, who was it that said, and I want to quote it, because we're going to talk a little bit about the Vanity Fair piece. We've got a lot about New York State issues. I don't know if you saw the poll that came out, take it with a grain of salt, but the poll about the governor's race. But here it is, Jamie Raskin. I thought it was Jamie Raskin. He was on MS Now, which used to be MSNBC. And he said they really seem to be converging around the argument that this is all part of the all-important war on drugs they're fighting. This is in reference to a potential war with Venezuela. They have a difficult time reconciling that with President Trump's pardon of Oscar Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, who brought over 800,000 pounds of cocaine, saying he was going to shove it up the noses of us, and they've been closing down a lot of drug enforcement. I mean, drug prosecutions are actually at a decades-long low right now because they've diverted everybody over to immigration enforcement. So they're really not doing anything about drugs. So that's all pretextual for the ginning up of this war that they think might be able to distract from the country from the eroding economy that Donald Trump has imposed on all of us. And the unemployment figures are bad, inflation is terrible, and people are hurting everywhere. And they literally have no plan to deal with it. So Jamie Raskin suggesting, and this is kind of an old, kind of trite argument, they used it during Bush too, that he's starting some type of war. He's not doing it to protect the American people. He's starting some type of war to distract from domestic issues. But as Rick had mentioned, Pete Hegseth won't release the boat strike video, saying he won't release the top secret, full, unedited video of the boat strikes. In keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course, we're not going to release a top secret, full, unedited video of that to the general public. He indicated that members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee would get a chance this week to view the video, though he stopped short of clarifying whether all members of Congress would gain access to it, despite a defense policy bill requiring it be shared with Congress, according to the Associated Press. The Trump administration made the video of the first strike available to the public, but has withheld the video of the subsequent strike, which was shown privately to members of Congress. The second strike resulted in the deaths of 2 survivors from the initial attack on a vessel allegedly transporting cocaine in the Caribbean. Now, John Fetterman, who surprisingly has been better than some members of the Republican Party on certain issues. Now, Fetterman, of course, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, but whether it was the government shutdown, whether it's some of the international policies of Trump, he's been more, I would argue, conservative than even some members of the Republican Party. He was on Chris Cuomo's show. Yes, Chris Cuomo has a show. He said, he was asked by Chris Cuomo, what do you learn, Senator, that gave you any comfort that we're not heading into some kind of extended military exercise around Venezuela or in Venezuela? Fetterman said, I thought it was pretty comprehensive. And this idea, something's out in the media, it's kind of putting out this that the military is just picking off any boat that comes across. That's just not true. There's extensive intelligence, and they know exactly who's on the boat, and they know what's exactly on the boat right now. And it's quite frequently they decline to take it and to move on those things. When they move on those kinetic kinds of strikes, they have absolute confidence who's on it and what's on it. And that's exactly what it's about. They're not just going around randomly just shooting boats and those things. That's just not the fact at all. I think what's happening right now is consistent, and I think that it's not unreasonable to compare that to what President Obama was doing during his presidency. We've got other breaking stories. We're just getting started. We are going to talk a little bit about the Susie Wiles interview. I don't really know what to make of it. I read it yesterday, and it came from, I think a lot of the takeaways that the media has isn't as shocking, perhaps, as they think it is. My takeaway is, why do the interview with someone that was clearly coming from not a measure of good faith? I mean, just the way he worded things in there, not the quotes from her, the way he would word things that were clearly coming from a bias and anti-Trump standpoint. That's what my biggest takeaway was, how biasly written that piece was. Not necessarily that he quoted Wiles, that she gave him the opportunity to do that, so he was going to do it. The fact that she said Trump had an alcoholic personality, to me, they try to make a big story out of that when it first broke, as if he was an alcoholic. We know he isn't. We know he just never drank because of his brother's issue with drinking. So I was really, it seemed like they were really stretching to make a lot of breaking stories out of this piece. But again, my takeaway was how just certain things were worded to, almost like we talked about with the live fact checking, was fact checking in there that wasn't factual. Or was worded in a way to paint Trump and his administration in a negative light. So we will talk a little bit about that, but not focus on it, because we do have a lot of New York State issues we have to get to. As I can tell already, we are going to be running quick on this program and late all morning long. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Going to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're running, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Nearly 5 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country each other, and all that is still to come for America.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. To Mark's point from earlier in the broadcast, it is being reported that Elon Musk is funding Republican campaigns for the midterm elections. This is a major announcement with enough. You know, we talked about it actually previously where Musk was trying to take credit for Donald Trump's win. I think that was overhyped on his part, but I will say the money, you can't deny that helped. The money in this case could be a deciding factor in the midterms. This is according to Axios, that he is cutting large checks to help the GOP secure congressional seats in next year's midterm elections. That's two sources, so take it with a grain of salt, but two sources speaking anonymously to Axios. The amount Musk is donating to help Republicans stop Democrats from reclaiming a majority will not be revealed until next month when campaign finance reports are released. Moreover, the Tesla CEO has conveyed he will donate more throughout the 2026 election cycle. Notably, Musk's recent donations arrive on the heels of his dinner with Vice President J.D. Vance. So that is a major breaking story when we talk about how the midterms could shape up. There's actually, as much as they're trying to push this idea that Republicans stand no chance, it's all over but the shouting, essentially. I saw an interesting piece that Democrats, and this coming from Fox News, have been dealing with declining voter rolls in a number of states, but one key battleground state in particular appears to be on the verge of flipping from a state that for decades has had more registered Democrat voters to one with more registered Republicans. There were almost 750,000 more registered Democrats in North Carolina than Republicans 10 years ago. As of today, the difference is just over 1,000, according to the latest count by the North Carolina State Board of Elections. Voters across North Carolina are rejecting the Democrats' failed agenda and choosing Republican leadership, said Representative Richard Hudson. This shift didn't happen overnight. It's a result of years of good common sense Republican governance and our focus on offering serious solutions on the issues that matter to people. So there's kind of a quick midterm update. I didn't even necessarily mean to do that. All right. Yes, I feel like we're going to spend the whole time here doing breaking news. Yesterday, Mike Johnson said that the House will not vote on extending expiring enhanced Obamacare subsidies, Affordable Care Act subsidies. This was after a closed-door Republican caucus meeting. He said that Republican leadership could not strike a deal with moderate Republicans to bring up an amendment on a health care bill slated for Wednesday, saying there's about a dozen members in this conference that are in these swing districts who are fighting hard to make sure they reduce costs for all their constituents. And many of them did want to vote on this Obamacare COVID-era subsidy that Democrats created. We looked for a way to try to allow for that pressure release valve, and it just was not there. We worked on it all the way through the weekend, in fact, and in the end, there was not an agreement. It wasn't made. Mike Lawler, who's been kind of outspoken against Trump and others lately, said, I'm going to rephrase how he said it, but I'm mad for the American people. This is absolute baloney, and it's absurd. Everybody has a responsibility to serve their district, to serve their constituents. You know what's funny? 3/4 of people on Obamacare are in states Donald Trump won. So maybe, just maybe, everybody should look at this and say, how do we actually fix the health care system? Now, one complication that arose during the negotiation was Republican leadership told the moderate Republicans that they would need to find offsets to pay for the extension of the Obamacare subsidies, which would cost $35 billion per year. However, party leaders often grant waivers for these pay-for rules. This is going to be interesting because we talked about it just quickly yesterday, that we could be in January looking at another government shutdown because of this. So just giving you all the news here this morning that you need to know before you start your day off. When we come back, we are going to talk quickly about that Vanity Fair piece. What was your thoughts on it? Susie Wiles, notoriously kind of not looking for the spotlight, gave quite a few interviews with this reporter from Vanity Fair. I never quite understand that. This was something that happened in the first term to Trump quite a bit as well. Some are saying it's a sign that things are falling apart in Trump's administration. I don't think it's that at all, because if you look at when she started doing the interviews, it goes all the way back to a few days before the inauguration. I think this is just someone that perhaps she trusted, or perhaps she was maybe a little too outspoken with. And again, I don't see the big troubling takeaways that so many others in the media saw. What I saw was a piece that was clearly written in bad faith. It was clearly coming from an anti-Trump and an anti-Trump administration bias, just with the language he used, not what she used, what he used to describe certain things in the Trump administration, certain actions, clearly coming from a place of someone that did not vote for President Trump. So we'll talk about it again just quickly because it's worth mentioning. We have a couple of media updates that I think you're going to find interesting. New York State updates. As I said, we're going to talk with Christopher Wise a little bit later on. He's got a new song out called Christmas in Jail. I think you're going to enjoy our interview. So stay with us. We are moving right along. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. I do appreciate it. What were your thoughts if you saw the poll that shows that Governor Hochul has a lead still over Stefanik? We'll talk about that. Boy, I tell you who has a lead in that poll was Stefanik over Blakeman. But again, this is a Siena poll. It's done very early. Really, when you think about it, Stefanik just announced that she was running, and now we have the whole debacle of Blakeman getting involved. So not necessarily a surprise. And then a green energy update. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
We're traveling all across America, talking to people about their hearts. How's the heart?
Good.
You sure?
I think so.
How do you know? Let me show you something. Put 2 fingers right on those pads. Look at that. That's your heart.
That is pretty awesome.
With Cardio Mobile, you can take a medical-grade EKG in just 30 seconds from anywhere. Cardio Mobile is proven to detect atrial fibrillation, one of the leading causes of stroke. Get Cardio Mobile for yourself or a loved one this holiday. On sale now for just $69 at Cardio.com or Amazon.
Okay, there's the signal.
Okay, go. Hurry, he's coming. Have a good round.
See you later.
All right.
What's that?
Toolbox.
Okay. Santa's way sneakier.
It's been said that families are like branches on a tree. We grow apart in different directions, but we are joined at the root as one. Coming home will always be the best part about family. This message brought to you by the U.S. Air Force and this station.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. The big Trump media cycle yesterday was that Vanity Fair article that came out with their interviews, or the interview with Susie Wiles. CNN did their takeaways, saying, one, Wiles is not exactly flattering toward Bondi, Musk, and Vance. The money quote from the interview might be Wiles saying that Trump, a known teetotaler, has an alcoholic's personality. I'm confused, and I know that's what CNN and others in the mainstream media are pushing, that was some big takeaway. I'm confused by that he said it, and I think that was in his defense of Wiles, saying he said the same thing about himself in the past. So I'm really confused. If that's the big takeaway, that goes to show you that the Vanity Fair article is pretty much a dud. Trump gave Wiles a vote of confidence in an interview later, casting doubt on the accuracy of the report, but he suggested he saw some truth in her comment about him because even though he doesn't drink, he does have a possessive and addictive type personality. I'll tell you more about what he had to say in a moment. She did say that Pam Bondi completely whiffed with her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Quote, first, she gave them binders full of nothingness, and then she said that the witness list or the client list was on her desk. There is no client list, and it sure as heck wasn't on her desk. Bondi said Tuesday her dear friend Wiles fights for Trump's agenda with grace, loyalty, and historic effectiveness. We are family. We are united. She indicated that Elon Musk's approach to the Department of Government Efficiency was just as chaotic and careless as it seemed from the outside. Elon's attitude is if you have to get it done fast. And then she criticized him cutting USAID. She undercut Trump's public message on the boat strikes in Venezuela. I'm just going to give you the quick takeaways. He wants to keep on blowing up boats until Maduro cries uncle, Wiles said. 3, she comes across as a willing enabler. So this is what you get for doing this in-depth interview. You get, again, criticized because you're still in the Trump administration. That's why I don't understand after, and I'm not being critical of her necessarily. I just don't understand what you have to gain. We saw this too frequently in the first Trump administration. And what, at the end of the day, did this accomplish other than be a kind of a weak but a hit piece nonetheless on Trump and really Wiles and everyone else in his inner circle? Let's see, what else do we have? She admits Trump is out for retribution. That's one that's going to hurt Trump kind of technically in some of these instances. I don't think he's on a retribution tour, she said at one point. For one, she said she and Trump had an informal agreement that his score settling would end after 90 days. In some cases, it may look like retribution, and there may be an element of that from time to time. So, we'll talk about Rubio in a moment, but that was one big takeaway. Rubio said he'll defer to Vance, that if Vance decides he wants to run for president, that he will defer and take a step back and let Vance run for president. If J.D. Vance runs for president, he's going to be our nominee, and I'll be one of the first people to support him, Rubio told Vanity Fair. And finally, her big political concern for Trump and the GOP. She fears Trump and the administration are alienating key voters. The people that are inordinately interested in Epstein are the new members of the Trump coalition, the people that I think about all the time, because I want to make sure that they are not Trump voters or Republican voters. It's the Joe Rogan listeners. It's the people that are sort of new to our world. It's not the MAGA base. She also, perhaps more significantly, echoed bubbling concerns that Trump is too focused on foreign policy, saying more talk about the domestic economy and less about Saudi Arabia is probably called for. They like peace in the world, but that's not why he was elected. Then she finished by saying we're going to win the midterms. So Susie Wiles came out and slammed the piece after the fact. That's why it's just not safe, especially with someone from Vanity Fair. Wiles called the interview a disingenuously framed hit piece. She said the piece lacked significant context. Significant context was disregarded, and much of what I and others said about the team and the president was left out of the story. I assume after reading it that this was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. Now, Susie Wiles is very smart. Why then would she not know that's exactly what Vanity Fair was going to do? That's my question, my concern, because again, this was something we were forced to talk about the first term nonstop. She continued, the truth is that Trump White House has already accomplished more in 11 months than any other president has accomplished in 8 years. And that is due to the unmatched leadership and vision of President Trump, for whom I've been honored to work for the better part of a decade. Now, the political world is rocked by the bombshell Susie Wiles tell-all. Again, I know what the media is trying to do. It is not a bombshell where there's some little takeaways that, again, half sentences, even a full sentence, completely, as Wiles said, probably taken out of context, or at least not in full context of what she was saying. Yeah, I guess. But when CNN admits the biggest takeaway is that she said that Trump has an alcoholic's personality, that goes to show you it's a dud. So bombshell, but this is Mediaite. Anthony Scaramucci, remember him? He said because of this, quote, the Trump era is ending. When top advisors feel emboldened to speak so candidly, something's up. And I think the reaction to Rob Reiner, by all accounts, a decent person with a troubled child from both the right and left, is more than a surface crack. So we heard the Venezuelan boat scenario was no different than Epstein. Now the Rob Reiner tweet is going to end his presidency. I mean, how many times are we going to have these same pieces? I know it started as a joke about once a week. Now it's a couple times a day. Carolyn Levitt said Chief of Staff Susie Wiles has helped President Trump achieve the most successful first 11 months in office of any president in American history. President Trump has no greater or more loyal advisor than Susie. What else? The entire administration is grateful for her steady leadership and united fully behind her. Dan Pfeiffer said it's hard to square the image of Susie Wiles as this smart, disciplined operator with a person who decided to divulge all of the administration's secrets to Vanity Fair in exchange for a photo shoot. So that is, that's some tough words there. John Favreau mused it's fun to think about how many different court documents will include quotes from Vanity Fair's Susie Wiles interview. That will be one big issue. I know the media hasn't focused on that as much, but the retribution idea. Brian Metzger said, I just don't understand why Susie Wiles agreed to do this. Oh, of course, they quote Bill Kristol. Bill Kristol, who was wrong about every single thing when it came to the meteoric rise of Donald Trump. He was the one that said Trump would be out before Iowa. That he wouldn't even make it to the primaries, that he wouldn't even make it to Christmas that year, was his prediction. Those are just two off the top of my head. I can't remember what outlet put it together, but all the tweets that he got wrong, and yeah, he's very confident and still going out there and making predictions and getting things wrong. Haven't read the article yet, but sounds like a dramatic exit interview from Susie Wiles, said Bill Kristol. I think we've probably had enough of these. This tough, hard-hitting journalism by Mediaite, just putting together quotes from people that don't like Trump and don't like the Trump administration saying how bad this Vanity Fair article is. I would just say, I wouldn't have taken the interview. I'll be fully direct with you on that. But I would also say, point to me what is so damning about what she had to say. I just personally don't see it. But now, of course, Susie Wiles is fighting for her job after spilling the secrets. Trump did stand by his chief of staff saying, no, she meant that I don't drink alcohol. So everybody knows that. But I've often said that if I did, I have a very good chance of being an alcoholic. I've said that many times about myself. I do. I'm a very possessive personality. I've said that many times about myself. I'm fortunate I'm not a drinker. If I did, I could very well, because I've said that, what's the word, not possessive and addictive type personality. When I've said it many, many times before. I guess the big takeaways, Vance was a conspiracy theorist for a decade. She made it sound like maybe he switched over to the MAGA side, not for political reasons, but for political reasons, meaning to better himself. I don't understand taking this, but it's not the end of the world. Trump said, I didn't read it, but I don't read Vanity Fair, but she's done a fantastic job, meaning Susie. I think that's what I hear. The facts were wrong, and it was a very misguided interview, purposely misguided, saying that Wiles is fantastic. He said that he thought Whipple may have deceived Wiles regarding his focus. Yeah, deceived, and he didn't have great access, a couple of very short interviews, and Susie generally doesn't do interviews. If anybody knows the interviewer, and if they know Vanity Fair is it's lost its way. It's also lost its readers, as you know. No, she is fantastic. All right. There you go. Yes, I know I'm running late. I don't want to, you and I can keep talking about it if you want, but I'm not going to focus more on what was said. You can read the pieces for yourself. They were all over some of these outlets that really do not like Trump, like CNN, Drudge Report. I read it to be prepared for this morning's broadcast, and to me, it's not a bombshell. It's more of a dud, And again, full caveat, I don't think she should have done the interviews because it's Vanity Fair. But having said that, it's out there, and I don't really think there's much to it. I think the biggest takeaway really is, because it just is about the shape of the future in 2028, is that Marco Rubio said if J.D. Vance runs for president, he's going to be our nominee, and I'll be one of the first people to support him. Essentially deferring, taking a step back to whatever J.D. Vance decides. That's a big takeaway from the piece. But there you are. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. She could sue them, or should sue them for publishing stuff she didn't say. They're not denying it at Vanity Fair that she said it, but what essentially Susie Wiles is saying, taken out of context, or that the interview wasn't presented to her in the right kind of context. If they know she didn't say it, Trump will sue. I have a feeling, think of her sitting down with an interview, saying some of these things, maybe getting a little too comfortable. Again, I don't think it's the big bombshell everybody says it is. I know they want to, just like they do with everything else. I've got examples of it in the future. Everything's the end of the Trump administration. What they're really gunning for in the media, in my opinion, is they want Wiles out because they know how effective she is. So they're trying to essentially plant that bug in Trump's ear to get rid of her. And I hope it doesn't work, because she has been effective. That's the thing. Don't do interviews with idiots. Thank you for that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. We all have to remember that it doesn't matter what it is that they write as long as it feeds the need for hatred of Trump. That is all that matters in the legacy media's eyes. When you talk about everything going on in the world, it is all because of the media. For as long as people make money off of hatred, bigotry, and racism, this will always exist. People don't remember the last Trump administration, when only about 17% of African Americans felt as if old people were racist towards them. It is the playbook of the Democrats and the media, which are one and the same. Yeah, and that's why I don't understand doing the interview, especially for somebody that has been notoriously quiet, not wanting the spotlight. I don't quite understand it. That would be my only criticism of it. But again, it doesn't really at the end of the day, it doesn't really rock the political world. But you should see, because I looked up Vanity Fair real quick just to see what some of the headlines are, and it's just hilarious. I mean, moment Trump goons realized Vanity Fair shoot was career suicide. That's from the Daily Beast, from the far left. But I like that that's the first thing that comes up, the Daily Beast. I don't think you'll ever see a conservative outlet be the first one that comes up. Carolyn Levitt, Vanity Fair photograph defends his extreme close-ups. Yeah, that's another thing. The photo shoot was even, in my opinion, biased. I don't know if I saw the Carolyn Levitt one specifically, but that's one that we've seen numerous times, that tactic where it's an unflattering photo. They try to get extremely close, whatever the case may be. What was the other one? What Republicans are saying privately about explosive Vanity Fair interview. All right, that's it. That's the... Yes. A couple of comments here. It's the liberals' flavor of the week because they have nothing else and they'll harp on anything. They drag these things out for 2 weeks and then look for more. You're exactly right. It's Epstein. It's all these things that they just continue, and they'll quote this in the future. And again, there is nothing there. Comment from a different viewer. You look taller in the saddle today. You must have gotten the chair fixed. Yes. It was never really broken. It just goes down sometimes. But it is at the top peak that it can go. So that's... But I thank you for noticing. Troubling, moving along from that, but you feel free to weigh in on the Vanity Fair piece if you would like. There's some, I know I bring this up on the program a lot, but the anti-Semitism that I guess a lot of people started noticing when it hit college campuses, and then it started in the streets, and then you have Zohran Mamdani when mayor of New York. Here's a couple examples, completely different. A Free Palestine note was found in a Hanukkah gift ordered from Bloomingdale's. A Jewish woman was appalled after finding a Free Palestine note tucked into her Hanukkah-themed gift her boyfriend bought from Bloomingdale's, which has now launched an investigation. New Yorker Ariel Harris shared her story, showing off the holiday pajamas she received on the first night of Hanukkah that were emblazoned with the Star of David and menorahs. But to her shock, when she opened the package, she discovered a note written on a store-branded card that had been placed on the top of the receipt saying, Free Palestine. The anti-Semitism is prevalent in many instances, especially on college campuses. It's encouraged. How about this? A menorah in a Jackson Heights park was vandalized, sparking outrage in the Queens neighborhood that's been rattled by repeated incidents of anti-Semitic graffiti. Rabbi Mir Pape of the Jackson Heights Chabad said he discovered the large menorah's center supporting beam covered in spray foam the day before the public Hanukkah lighting. It looked disgusting. The menorah could still operate, but Pape blasted the apparent hateful vandalism as more of a statement. Trump yesterday lamenting that Congress is becoming anti-Semitic during a Hanukkah celebration. He also seemed to tip his hand on how much the ballroom was going to cost, that it might not cost $400 million. Just keep that in mind. Double its original price tag, but again, privately funded. He said, I will always be a friend and champion to the Jewish people. If you go back 10, 12, 15 years ago at the most, the strongest lobby in Washington was the Jewish lobby. It was Israel. That's no longer true. You have to be very careful. You have a Congress in particular, which is becoming anti-Semitic. You have AOC plus 3. You have those people, Ilhan Omar. She hates Jewish people. And you have to be very clear because there's been a big change. You've got a lot of people in Congress that don't like Israel. They hate Israel, and obviously it's getting progressively worse. Less so in the Senate, but the Senate is starting also. You get glimmers when I'm in the back rooms talking to people. He also voiced his dismay at people who downplay the horrors of Hamas's October 7, 2023 massacre, and he denounced a deadly attack against a Jewish celebration at Bondi Beach over the weekend. Please be vigilant and careful, he pleaded. And then, by the way, just at one point he said, a $400 million ballroom. It'll be the most beautiful ballroom, and it'll handle inaugurations. It's got 5-inch thick glass windows, impenetrable by anything but a howitzer. It's impenetrable. Now, I will say if I'm up making the speech someday and I hear ding, 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 I'm out of here. I think it'll be the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world. Okay. That was at the Hanukkah celebration. A couple other things. I got to take a break. But we'll tie in the Bondi Beach massacre with also, of course, we have the Brown University shooting, which as far as I know, there's still no one charged. There is no real information. They keep releasing videos, but the videos are not that great. But we can tie these kind of all in together because, as you know, when something like this happens, you have politicians that instantly jump on pushing gun control. So we'll talk about that quickly. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
This is Jim from Famous Brands. We are ready for fall and loaded with all of your favorite brands. Great new deals are arriving every week. We have the largest selection of clothing and footwear in the Finger Lakes, all at below retail prices. Famous Brands, downtown Watkins Glen, where you're always looking good for less.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street Corning. Comment from Mark. He says, when are these Republican officials going to realize when they do an interview with Democratic news stations, it will get twisted for the Democrat Party's liking? I would say that's the most frustrating thing about that piece. It's not what was said. It was why it was necessary. Why, of all places, Vanity Fair, who's never been friendly to Trump, and also, what is the benefit? What is the upside to giving that interview? It's not as if Trump isn't extremely transparent in doing media interviews almost all day, to the point where journalists on Air Force One complain about how easily accessible he is because they want to get some rest. So why do that interview? Just to benefit? Because now Vanity Fair is going to sell a bunch of issues, and what does she get for it? A headache. I don't understand that. I'm with you. Michael Goodwin said that terrorism and anti-Semitism are raging worldwide, and Zohran Mamdani is ill-equipped to lead through any of it. Keeping that in mind with these scary times. Also, if you look at it with the Brown University shooting, it exposed the school's lax systems, something Mamdani must address, as New York City's numerous colleges and universities. The case also illustrated shortcomings of the Providence Police Department. It still has not revealed what words the shooter reportedly yelled before firing, and was slow to release key videos of the suspect and provided incorrect or incomplete information about him days after the horror. The NYPD is clearly far more competent, yet it remains to be seen whether it can maintain its high standards under a mayor whose history with cops is marked only by mistrust and smears. God save New York. Now, Bethany Mandel says on Sunday, the first night of Hanukkah, a father-son terror team hit Australia's Bondi Beach and massacred innocents at a family event celebrating the Jewish festival. Ever since, well-intentioned commentators have proclaimed their anguish that this holiday of light, of togetherness, of universal values everyone can appreciate, could be marred in such a way. But that vision of Hanukkah is a lie. It is not how we should be honoring the lives brutally taken. Hanukkah is not a festival of vague illumination or seasonal warmth. It is not about universalism. Bondi should have taught us just that. The story of Hanukkah is about Jews who refused, violently, unapologetically, and at great cost, to stop being Jews. In our generation, we are fighting that same battle. The Hanukkah story is not one of peaceful coexistence interrupted by misunderstanding, but of a foreign empire that demanded Jews abandon Jewish law, Jewish practice, and Jewish identity. Assimilation was not optional under the rule of the Seleucid Empire. It was compulsory. And I'm not going to go through the whole history here because I will be not great with some of the names and some of the history, but she said, this Hanukkah, Jews should stop explaining ourselves in ways designed to earn approval. We should stop pretending the holiday is about generic goodness and not about Jewish endurance through strength. We should teach our children that Hanukkah is about refusing to assimilate, even when assimilation promises safety. Every night we light menorah candles. We send a clear message. We are still here. We will not convert. We will not disappear. We will not reshape ourselves to be acceptable. We will not turn our history into a children's story that offends no one and teaches nothing. Hanukkah should not be about making the world like us. It must be about Jews liking ourselves enough to remain who we are. That's Beth Mandel. I thought that was a very powerful message. Now, before we go to break, what happened? Well, no. We'll talk about these shootings and these attacks over the weekend. We're gonna start the next hour with some media updates. And I said we've got an interview coming up with Christopher Wise from Christopher Wise and the Tellers. He's got a new song out called Christmas in Jail. So I think you're going to enjoy that. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
It's 10 p.m. somewhere. Do you know what your kids are doing online? Brought to you by Ferrario Jeep.
In here.
For what?
Well, there's
kitchen cleaning, home decor, rugs and carpets, even floors, food and candy, toys and games, health and beauty, household names, patio and garden deals, outdoor arts and crafts are steals, all things sporting here and more, even electronics in stores. Show your pets some love, and your car could use a lift. Home improvement, bed and bath, come take your pick. Seasonal deals, and by now you get my drift.
That was fun. Save up to 70% off fancy store prices on the brands you love.
Ollie's, good stuff, cheap.
United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. Will you?
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. Sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wishmaker today and be part of a journey that
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, wrapping up hour number one. All right, here we go. Chuck Schumer, you'll guess it, called for more gun control in response to Saturday's handgun attack at the gun-free Brown University. He did not mention the school's gun-free policy, nor that it goes so far as to prevent concealed carry permit holders from being armed on campus for self-defense. Instead, Schumer went with the standard Democrat talking point of pushing more gun laws after gun control fails to prevent a criminal from acting out in heinous ways. Forbes posted a video of Schumer claiming Australia is showing courage by seeking ways to expand and implement new gun controls. He said, if Australia can find courage to act after a tragedy like the one at Bondi Beach, Congress should certainly find the will to act after a tragedy like the one at Brown University. Congress must again act against gun violence and act against all forms of violent hate. He did not name any specific gun control that would have prevented the Brown University attack. This is a standard talking point from the left. I don't know if that is the same press conference where he said, before we talk about Bondi Beach massacre, go Bills, something very tone deaf and disgraceful like that. Tim Walz, remember that name? Minnesota Governor Tim Walz pushed an assault weapons ban. He did not define what constitutes an assault weapon. They never do. He spent months pushing for more gun control. We know that in the past. So he called for an assault weapons ban. But Phil Mickelson, the legendary golfer, I thought he had a good point. Golf legend said he was responding to Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's post-Bondi Beach attack gun control push by noting that the two terrorists who opened fire Sunday evening, quote, didn't seem affected by the strict gun laws already in place. In fact, the shooting went on for a long time since there wasn't anybody else with a gun to stop them. I'm not a big gun guy, but even I'm not this dumb to believe that what this guy is selling, meaning the Prime Minister. That's a great point. Saying, again, that the terrorists didn't seem affected by the strict gun control laws already in place. All right, when we come back, we got a couple media updates. Yes, because of the Vanity Fair, there's cracks in the Trump administration because of, I guess, the Rob Reiner tweet. Boy, they are going full speed ahead on this, full bore with this talking point. And unfortunately, you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who more than willing to play along. She said on CNN, yes, she's getting the attention from CNN, and she's got another scheduled appearance on The View. She's liking this. She'll probably end up getting a job offer. Now, keep in mind, they still don't like her. She is a Republican, and she did support Trump at one time, so they still hate her and will find ways to criticize her, but she's loving the attention right now of the quote-unquote cool kids. She said, I'd like to point something out. Just last week, I think the dam is breaking. Many Republicans may not have called him out, but last week, 13 Republicans voted with Democrats to overturn one of President Trump's executive orders, which enabled him to fire federal workers. We also saw Indiana Republicans vote against redistricting. He didn't call any of them traitors and call for primaries against them, but I would like to say that this is a sign where you're seeing Republicans are entering the campaign phase for 2026, which is a large signal that lame duck season has begun, and the Republicans will go all in for themselves in order to save their own reelections. So Caitlin Collins said, you think the dam is breaking in terms of the president's iron grip of support when it comes to your party? Green said, absolutely. Those 13 Republicans that voted to take down his executive order last week, literally that same evening, put on their tuxedos and their evening ball gowns and went to the White House Christmas party. That's pretty bold. All right, on that note, we got a lot more to talk about. We're going to be talking with Christopher Wise a little bit later on, so stay with us. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 moments away. Hey, let me know if you went last night to the Crystal Chords holiday concert. I'd love to know, did you have a blast? They did such a great job on the telethon. So if you happen to attend, I'd love to hear how that went. Now some of the events are starting to slow down. I know I've been throwing a lot at you lately. I don't even know how much I had a chance to really thank you all that much for how much you did during the telethon. That was such a huge success. We don't have the exact numbers in yet. That always takes a little bit longer than maybe your typical telethon with a board in the background, counting up the number. It's just a little bit different with the websites, the checks and the kettles and the things like that. But I'm overwhelmed by just what I saw here in this kettle on this desk. I didn't even know that many people had stopped in to drop off major checks. So I'm really excited about that, and I can't thank you guys all enough for how much you did to make that a success. Let's take a short break, and then we'll enter hour number 2 after this.
This is a Sue the Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Give kids time.
Imagine checking your own heart with medical precision from anywhere. You can with KardioMobile 6L, the FDA-cleared EKG that provides 6 times more heart data than any smartwatch. And it detects 3 of the most common arrhythmias in just 30 seconds, including atrial fibrillation, bradycardia, and tachycardia. Check your heart with the #1 doctor-recommended personal EKG. Give KardioMobile 6L this holiday. On sale now for just $99 at Kardia.com or Amazon.
Tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates.
Welcome to hour number 2. Oh my goodness. Welcome to hour number 2. Thank you for joining us. We've got a lot of comments. I just didn't have an opportunity to get to all of them. We'll get to them a little bit later on. I do have a couple that I saved. Here we go. Hi, Frank. Why does anybody ever sit there and flat out ask, or why doesn't anybody ever just sit there and flat out ask the Democrats what laws will criminals ever follow when it comes to gun control? That is the one question that they will never have an answer to, because there are no laws that criminals ever follow, because that is what makes him or her a criminal. You're right. And I know there's been examples where they've been asked, and you know, their argument used to be, and I don't know if they've gotten better with it, but the argument always was, if it saves one life, if this law saves one life, which that means we'd have to ban cars, we'd have to, you know all about it, you know all the arguments. So you're right, they have been asked, but it's, what do they do when they're asked a good question? They deflect, they lie, they don't answer. Comment from a different viewer. I'm wondering if anybody else has received health care bills lately. Wife just got hers, $1,246 per month due January. That's with a $7,000 deductible. Went from $10 per month to $1,246. Complete nonsense. She called Marketplace and the person said, do like most people and go without it. Unbelievable. I think it's a completely political stunt to get people angry at Trump. Our combined income is below $40,000. I think you're right, not just at Trump, and just Republicans in general, because they had a chance under the Biden administration to extend those subsidies. They did not, meaning the Democrat Party. We know that they were the ones that created the Obamacare, number one, and then created the subsidies. So it was set up to fail. I don't know if they had enough foresight to know that it was going to hurt Trump, but to hurt Republicans in general. By the way, when we mentioned Donald Trump's BBC lawsuit yesterday, they are not backing down. They said that they want to put Donald Trump on the stand where he, quote, must tell the truth. So they've been caught red-handed, lying and editing to make Trump look bad, and he's the one not telling the truth. If Trump wants billions, he's going to have to pay for it in disclosure. He's never faced questions like this. The evidence demands will be relentless. No one has ever been able to pin Trump down on his movements during the riot. If the BBC's legal team deposes him, that changes. They'll have him answering for every minute. Oh, hey, this is one of those things that I've been talking about, and I never was able to, no, I shouldn't say pinpoint it exactly, but I keep telling you how they're making excuses of why, that's the media, why they didn't talk about Biden's health, but now nonstop we have articles about Trump's health. Jake Tapper said, we cover it all the time on my show, all the time, meaning Trump's health. Yeah. I think that is to a large degree because we saw what happened with Biden. And while we covered it, we didn't ask as many questions as we should have at the time. So the excuse is, you know how we didn't cover Biden's mental health and we mocked and ridiculed you if you had any questions about it? Well, we want to make up for it by going double, triple, quadruple our normal coverage and focus on Trump's health nonstop. And again, this is Jake Tapper. We cover it all the time on my show, all the time, meaning Trump's health. I think that is to a large degree because we saw what happened with Biden. And while we covered it, we didn't ask as many questions as we should have at the time. You didn't really cover it, number one. That's trying to cover yourself. Number two, what's the difference between the two? So you're saying you made a mistake. You didn't realize you were making a mistake at the time during the Biden administration, that you weren't covering his mental health. Could it be the D and the R next to their names? Could it just once again prove the immense bias in the mainstream media, or was it just happen to be a coincidence that you didn't cover Biden's health and now essentially a lot of these places completely fabricating out of thin air to make Trump look bad or start, not scandals isn't the right word, but conspiracies about his health because he took, an afternoon off one time? It's unbelievable. I think it's a legitimate question for any president of any age, but particularly anyone who is like the range of being an octogenarian, right? Weren't Republicans demanding and asking you to do that for 4 years under Biden? And you refused? But now it's fair game. And they can look at you, that hypocrisy, they can look at you in the face and make that, he's presenting that as a positive thing. Oops, we messed up under Biden. Yeah, right. Like it wasn't a complete cover-up. It was probably the biggest scandal. And if Scott Bessent's watching this, he can use my line again. But the biggest scandal in presidential history because of the likes of Jake Tapper and CNN and other mainstream media outlets. And now they are trying to pat themselves on the back saying, well, we didn't do enough then, so we've learned our lesson, and now we're going to constantly attack President Trump. They have no shame, folks, when we're talking about the media. Keep that in mind. Oh, and since we're talking about the bias in the media, Stephen Collinson at CNN says what Trump can learn from Vance ahead of his national address. Now, I know there's one thing I would do if I was Trump. I would listen to advice from someone that never wants to see me succeed, wants to see me fail as president. President Trump could do worse than stick to J.D. Vance's script in his primetime national address on Wednesday night. Yes, the president is giving a national address tonight. The vice president is just back from Allentown, Pennsylvania, where he delivered the administration's most coherent and disciplined argument for its 10-month stewardship of the economy. Vance, unlike his boss, can stick to a pre-crafted political message and deliver it effectively. Trump, by contrast, loves to mock aides who send him on trips with prepared remarks. I haven't read practically anything off the stupid teleprompter, he bragged recently. Unlike Trump, Vance was willing to concede that many Americans don't recognize the economic golden age. Even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. The thing that I'd ask from the American people is a little bit of patience. So he's saying that Trump, you should copy Vance. And if there's one thing I know, Stephen Collinson has Trump's best interests at heart. That's why Fox News has crushes cable and broadcast rivals with its highest rated non-election year ever. The Fox Corp-owned cable giant averaged 3.2 million viewers in weekday primetime, beating over-the-air NBC's 3.1 million, according to Nielsen Media Research. It marked Fox News' second-best year in its history and its 10th straight year as the most-watched network in all of cable. Fox News, which shares common ownership with the New York Post, commanded 64% of the total cable news audience in both primetime and total day in 2025, the largest share since the network launched in '96. All right, when we come back, we're gonna get to your comments. We've got some New York State updates. Then we're gonna talk with Christopher Wise here in just a little bit. He's got a new album out called Christmas in Jail. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
William Mattar has a reputation for being a good guy.
Because I am a good guy.
For being focused on motor vehicle accident cases.
Because I focus on motor vehicle accidents.
For fighting for his clients.
Because I fight for my clients.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mattar. Visit williammattar.com.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security and Horsets. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. As you sit in your beautiful heated studio on a beautiful festive city street, we should take a somber moment to acknowledge that you are broadcasting from indigenous land. Go Bills. Thank you very much. Very reminiscent of Chuck Schumer's. Before we talk about the Bondi Beach Massacre, I just want to say, go Bills. That was a big game. That's essentially his quote. All right, Steve wrote in a big one. I hope I do it justice, Steve. Steve says, I sell insurance. This is what has caused healthcare to become what it is. Audit reveals Obamacare insurance companies are being given tens of thousands of dollars in premium tax credits each month for fake enrollees. A newly released Government Accountability Office audit exposed how Obamacare is draining billions of dollars from taxpayers while Democrats push to extend the program without reforms. The audit found nearly 68,000 Social Security numbers in 2024 were linked to multiple subsidized policies, sometimes over 125 enrollments per Social Security number, revealing widespread identity theft or synthetic fraud. Over 58,000 Social Security numbers matched federal death records, yet received at least $94 million in subsidies tied to deceased individuals in 2023 alone. About $21 billion in 2023 subsidies, 32% of all advanced premium tax credits lacked any evidence of tax records. About 160,000 applicants in 2024 showed signs of unauthorized changes by brokers, including plan switches without the consent of the enrollee, racking up illegal commissions. The Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office findings are being described as a damning indictment of Obamacare insurance exchange, where federal subsidies, tax dollars, are given to healthcare insurance companies to lower premiums for enrollees. However, Obamacare subsidies are granted without documentation to 90% of fake accounts. The audit detailed how documentation isn't checked before handing over millions to insurers. I don't think I can get through all this whole piece, Steve. I do appreciate it. But investigators created 20 fake identities, complete with invalid social security numbers and mismatched personal detail, to test the enrollment process for plan years 2024 and 2025. 19 of the 20 fake applicants were initially approved for subsidized coverage, and 18 are still actively enrolled, sending more than $10,000 each month in advance premium tax credits paid directly to insurers. Well, thank you for that. I know there's some quotes in there, but I do appreciate that, Steve. Thank you very much. Okay, yesterday, Siena released their new poll. Now, Governor Hochul does maintain double-digit leads over potential rivals, Elise Stefanik and Bruce Blakeman, while slightly gaining in her own favorability rating. According to the poll, Hochul holds a 19-point lead over Congresswoman Stefanik and a 25-point lead over the Long Island lawmaker, Blakeman. Let's see. Closing out 2025, 6 months from the primaries and 11 months till the general election, Hochul maintains a solid 19-point lead over Stefanik, with 1 in 5 votes being undecided, and currently has a larger 25% lead over recent entrant Blakeman. Now, some of these, if you go through it, and again, I want you to take it with a grain of salt. This is just important to know because a lot of people, at least in New York politics, really look towards Siena. But obviously, Elise Stefanik, no problem defeating Bruce Blakeman in this scenario. Stefanik, Hochul's 43 to 41 favorability rating is a little better than the last report. Her job approval rating is also 4 points better than last month. Stefanik's favorability rating is 22-33 from 28-36, and Blakeman has a 13-17 favorability rating, similar to that in June. So we can go through some of these, but what's important, and this is what's so interesting about New York and so frustrating, Hochul still leads Stefanik in the numbers, but yet more people want Hochul out, but I guess it was just some other candidate. I don't know. It's probably not going to be Delgado. So that is kind of the story making the rounds yesterday. By the way, according to Siena, Hochul leads her primary opponent, Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, by 43 points. Wow. On issues, voters have higher expectations for Hochul on ensuring access to health care and keeping New Yorkers safe. Voters don't think either Hochul or Stefanik will succeed in making life more affordable. Stefanik stands out with voters for being decisive, while she is either break-even or in negative territory on other characteristics. Hochul scores well with voters on being honest, decisive, and empathetic. However, plurality find her to be not very or not at all inspiring. For whatever that's worth, folks. But now there must be some concern because you're starting to see the hit pieces come out about Stefanik. Stefanik reckons with her right. She will have to deal with a civil war tearing her party apart over whether those who espouse racist or anti-Semitic rhetoric have a place within the GOP. No one has said that. The party, the anti-Semitism, Van Jones himself, the Obama advisor, said the Democrat Party is marbled with anti-Semitism. What a hit piece this is. Boy, the media has got us frustrated this morning. This is from Politico. What? So there's a civil war tearing essentially the Republican Party apart over whether those who espouse racist or anti-Semitic rhetoric have a place within the GOP. What about, just out of curiosity, would you ever see that paragraph in regards to a Democrat? Because if we're going to talk about anti-Semitic rhetoric, don't you talk about the man just elected New York City mayor? I'm not going to go through any of that. I don't even know why I get myself worked up. Because we got to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Chris Wise. Looking forward to hearing about his new song, Christmas in Jail. We do have a couple other pieces that we'll get to. But what is your thoughts? I mean, these polls are so misleading, or not misleading is not the right word. They do this in a way to discourage Republicans to maybe not go out and even vote in the primary, to not even care that there's just no chance. Well, there's no reason Stefanik would give up we talked about this with Joe Sempolinski the other day, give up a House seat that she could win as long as she wanted to, give that up if she didn't think there was a chance, if she didn't think she could do it. That's what makes the Blakeman decision so frustrating, because Blakeman doesn't have a chance. Blakeman is essentially embarrassing himself, but it's a very egotistical drive that has led him to run for governor. That is not completely done. We got the convention coming up, but nonetheless, very frustrating. So there you are. We got to take a short break because we're going to talk with Chris Wiseman when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hi, this is the owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Nearly 5 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
This is a Sue the Collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and broadcasting from the Hesselson studio in that studio. Christopher, thanks so much for being on the program.
I am glad to be here. I hope the snow, you got plenty of it out there. We got a bunch here.
We've had enough of it. We've had enough of it already, let me tell you. Let me say, your new Christmas songs, but the one really gets your attention. The perfect name, Christmas in Jail. Tell us about it.
Well, it's not an autobiography.
Okay,
song,
good.
I'll tell you that much.
That was my next question.
You know, it's a remake of a 1929 song recorded in Chicago by a couple of Indianapolis guys. Okay. And that's my hometown, Indianapolis. It was Leroy Carr and Scrapper Blackwell, who were big blues stars back in the 20s and 30s. And they're a little bit obscure today, but I love their music. And I heard Christmas in Jail, and it's like, you know what? If I ever get a chance to do a Christmas song, I got to redo that little beauty. Yeah. And we had that chance and recorded it in Memphis.
That's wonderful. What, did you intentionally want to go down the Christmas Avenue? I know a lot of artists do, or was it just one that kind of fell in your lap?
No, I wanted to do a Christmas song. We're primarily a studio recording band, and our world is about putting music out to the world and letting it travel out instead of us traveling around the world and playing shows and so forth. We do a little bit, but I thought, what the heck? It's Christmas season. Let's do a Christmas couple of songs, and so we did a couple of them, and One of them kind of fell in my lap, and the whole Memphis thing kind of fell in my lap too. But the Christmas songs are intentional.
Now, tell us a little bit, because when you first came on the scene, so to speak, I'm using that term wrong. You kind of hit the blues world by storm and won a lot of awards. What was it that, I guess, attracted you to blues music?
Well, I played in cover bands, you know. We played rock and roll, but we played a lot of blues, and I started getting into the blues, and I wanted to learn the blues harmonica, so I went to Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Okay.
And if you know anything about the blues, that's supposedly pretty much where the blues were discovered by W.C. Handy back in 1903. It was being played, but it was popularized by Handy, who was a big band leader and well-known. I went there to learn the harmonica. There's a harmonica camp there.
Oh, okay.
You can go for a week and learn the harmonica, man. And I was playing it a little bit, but I wanted to get good. And I'll tell you what, when I went to Clarksdale and I saw where the blues came from and what it was all about, it just took me over about 15 years ago. And so I said, we're going straight at the blues. And our cover bands did that, and then I got encouraged to write my own music and record my own music. And we said it's got to be the blues, man.
Yeah. Do you find, because I've been to a lot of blues festivals and a lot of blues concerts, is it a difficult kind of living to be in that genre, or is it because people are so loyal the blues is easier, do you think?
Very interesting. I would say probably difficult, but I'll put an asterisk by that and say that, you know, it's a genre that has some huge aficionados. You said you went to blues festivals, so I don't think there's casual blues listeners.
There isn't.
I think there's blues lovers. And one of the cool things I've discovered is it's really big in Europe and other countries outside the U.S., almost bigger than it is in the U.S. I don't say almost, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
We've got some of our biggest followers are in France, UK, Germany, Mexico, the Netherlands, Australia. We've got all sorts of listeners and followers in our social media. So the blues is it's a love affair for the people who love it. You know, they're really into it.
And
as am I, man.
Yeah, well, right. And the thing is, it's almost like an endless amount of blues too. What's interesting, I mean, I guess like any music is, but you can always dig deeper and find some, like you did with Christmas in Jail. You can always find some hidden gem that you may not have been aware of before today.
Yeah, you know, and if you know a little about music, and I know a little, that's I'm the guy out front. They always laugh at me, the front man, right? They go, oh, his timing's terrible. He doesn't know music, but I play a little harmonica too. But it's a simple form of music, you know. It came up out of, you know, the Delta, and you know, it goes way back. And the music was very simple in that it really is 3 chords. And I mean, I picked up the harmonica, I remember, almost 20 years ago, and within a week or so, I was playing it on stage.
Wow.
Because it was a simple pattern of the music. Now, you can spend a lifetime getting good at the harmonica, and I've got a lot of work to do. But it's a simple music that I think people can relate to. And all rock and roll, for the most part, came right out of the blues.
Right.
And rock and roll was simple music, too.
And you say how it resonates really with everybody. Everybody's had a bad day, right? I had a little bit of the blues. So you think about the international effect that you mentioned. That's kind of been historic too. Think of people like Eric Clapton and people. What is it, I wonder, that draws people overseas to the blues? Maybe more than here back in the States.
You know, maybe it's because I think the rock and roll that was born in the UK was from kids who were listening to the U.S. blues.
Yeah.
You know, I think of a great blues man who was sort of my hero and very unsung today. His name's Long John Baldry. And he had a couple guys in his band. Frank, this will knock you out. But it was Rod Stewart singing backup vocals for Long John Baldry. And Elton Dean Reginald Dwight over on the keyboards, Elton John.
Yeah.
So he was his keyboard player.
Wow.
And they learned rock and roll and the blues from Long John Baldry, who was bigger than the Beatles when the Beatles came on the scene. And, of course, the Beatles love the blues as well. So I think it's maybe that. It came up out of that. You know, the Beatles went to Germany. They took that blues beat to Germany, and it kind of spread across Europe. And it's never gone away, man.
When you first got into it, what was it that attracted you to blues specifically?
Well, I think the storytelling aspect. You know, my band is called Christopher Wise and the Tellers. And I name them that because we play our own original music. and I write the lyrics, and they tell stories. And they're stories that are kind of Shakespearean, I guess. I think that's what's about the blues.
Yeah.
It's hardly ever comedy, but it's a hell of a lot of tragedy, you know?
That's right.
But the other thing I think about the blues is it's kind of the original talk therapy, man, because when you tell those stories, when you sing the blues, here's what happens. You feel better. I mean, as a blues dude, I feel great singing the blues. It makes me happy. But it has an effect on the people who hear it as well. And I think the effect is, you know what, I'm not alone. Other people have been down this road. I know what it feels like. I love you, man. So it's really a kind of a bonding kind of a music that has an amazing effect. And I think it's a weird thing, but it makes us feel good to sing and hear the blues.
It does. And at Christmas, that's why we go back to the Christmas in Jail and some of the songs that you're doing for Christmas. It really does relate itself to the blues, right? Everybody at Christmas has, they say people are down sometimes, or there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of things you got going on. So to combine those two, kind of Christmas music and blues, seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think so. So Christmas in Jail, I mean, Scrapper Blackwell and Leroy Carr, I know Leroy had a tough life. He passed away at 30. He got in alcohol and never got out. He wrote a lot of songs about it. I wonder if he spent some time in jail and maybe Christmas. So maybe he was singing about what that was like. My other song's a duet. It's called Heart's Christmas Blue. It's about two, kind of star-crossed lovers that once were together and now they're apart, and it's Christmas and they're feeling a little bit sad about it, and they're wondering, hey, maybe. Can we just have one more chance? And I won't tell you what happened.
Okay.
Okay. Listen to the song.
You got to go to the website at the bottom of the screen. Check it out. So who was it that influenced you in the blues? Like, what are some of the names that we should perhaps look up to kind of get involved with it?
Well, start with Leroy Carr and Scrapper Blackwell. It takes you way back to the early days of the blues of the 20s and 30s. Go to Long John Baldry, get up into the 60s. And then the great American blues guys, like, in particular for me, Howlin' Wolf, who I absolutely love. He was a huge hit in Europe. Jimmy Reed knocks me out. He's a guy who recorded the same song, I think, 400 times.
I know.
If you know Jimmy Reed, it's the Jimmy Reed sound.
It is.
But every song was different, and I love Jimmy Reed. Junior Wells on the harmonica, just an amazing performer, harmonica player. And if you ever saw him live, you go to him on YouTube and you watch him, man, you get sucked into the blues.
Oh, yeah.
That's my Mount Rushmore for you there,
okay.
Frank.
Well, that's a good start. Is there anybody that you're listening to now that is new to the scene that we should, other than, of course, you, but that we should listen to?
Well, there's a lot of great players out there. There's a local band here, King B and the Stingers, who I love. They just got a national award, too. And we got an award this year for the best new artist debut album with our debut album.
That's great.
Called Stuck in the Mud, which I recorded in Muscle Shoals. We kind of put it together. We had no idea what would happen to it. And Blues Blast magazine gave us the best new artist debut album of the year for 2025. We went and released a live album that we recorded and filmed in Clarksdale, Mississippi, right in the heart of the blues, and that's our latest album. And now these Christmas things, which we recorded in Memphis at Royal Studios, which was just a trip. It's one of the great Memphis studios that brought that Memphis sound. The band that was behind us there is Al Green's backing band. I played with Al Green for so many years and really produced that Memphis sound. So it was great to be in the studio. I sang the duet with Emma Wilson, who's a great English blues singer. She happened to be in the U.S. I happened to know her a little bit. I said, hey, if I wrote a song, would you record it with me while you're in the U.S.? She goes, well, I got one day that I'm going to be in Memphis with nothing to do. Perfect. I said, I'll be there. And then Johnny Phillips, who runs my record label, his uncle was Sam Phillips.
Oh, yeah, of
course. Great Sam Phillips. Yeah. So I said, Johnny, I need a recording studio, I need a band, and I need it on this one day, September 25th, and I need your help, brother. And it's great to have Sam Phillips' nephew make phone calls for you. So
that is really cool.
We made it all happen, and it was a blast. We filmed it, too. You can see it on YouTube, what the studio looks like, how we did it. We also filmed Christmas in Jail, so it was a complete delight. In one day, we banged it all out, had a ball, and celebrated with a little toast afterwards.
I'm sure. Would you rather be in the studio, or would you rather be playing live in front of the crowds?
I think I'd rather play live. I'm a real ham. I love having a microphone in my hand. Frank, you're pretty good at it too.
Yeah, I know. Hey, somehow they pay me for it.
Some of your stuff, I love it, man. You're awesome.
Well.
And so I love that. But you know, it's really cool. It's a different thing creating it in the studio. You're kind of making stuff up out of nothing. And I learned that whole process and how important the players are, the producer is in the whole thing, the engineer, the mix, the mastering, all that stuff. It's crazy. I never knew about it, but I kind of became a studio band, and now I know a little bit about it.
I think it's interesting because it's kind of like this. We pre-recorded an interview, and your mind almost takes you to a place where you can mess up or whatever. But when you're live, you can't mess up. So that's why I always find it fascinating to see if people would rather be live or they'd rather be in studio. I mean, you can screw up, don't get me wrong, but I think your body tells you not to, in a way.
Well, we did a live album called Live in Clarksdale, and I went down there to do this show and record it and film it. And I thought, it's going to be a short show. We just do 10 songs. Yeah. We actually did it in the day. We wanted to control some things. And so I get in there, and I'm like, I'm such a knucklehead. Dude, you should do 20 songs and pick the 10 best.
Yeah, right.
So we did 10 songs, and I'm like, oh, crap, I'm not going to get an album out of this unless we, like, hit a home run with each one of these. And thank goodness, you know, we did well enough on the 10 songs, but I learned my lesson. That was a lot of pressure, but
that's a lot.
We had a ball doing it, man. It was really fun, and it all kind of turned out, man.
Yeah. And there's something special about the blues live, too. That's why I like the idea of a live album. There's just something I don't think you really get out of any other genre than a live blues show.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it. I'm totally captivated by it.
Yeah.
And I'm totally captivated doing it. I think it is, again, back to the nature of the music itself. It's telling stories that, you know, even if the people are, you know, having dinner and a cocktail in the back of the room, you know, those stories seep in, and it's like, hey, I've been there, man. I know what you feel like, brother.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it.
Well, that's great. Well, so everybody's got to check out the new Christmas music, but where can they find out more in general about your albums, purchase, those type of things?
Well, look at that. It's got it right on the screen.
I thought so.
WYDC.com. I can see it right there. And you know what? We've got videos, we got music, we got the story behind this crazy band. You know, I started writing music in my 60s. I had not written a song until about 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I got encouraged by a great friend and mentor in Ralph Carter, who used to write songs for Eddie Money. And performed with him and produced our 2 albums. And he said, we're going to do an album someday. And I said, I'd love to be on your album, Ralph. He said, no, it's going to be your stuff, man.
That's really cool.
Start writing music. And that was about 5-6 years ago. And I took Ralph's advice, and he and I co-wrote most of the songs that we put out into the world. And he said, you can do this. And my background is a writer. I've written books. My publisher was in Ithaca, New York.
There you go.
I've been an advertising writer for a long time, 40 years. So it was really cool to come to the assignment of writing songs when I'd already learned how to write. So I didn't have that hurdle overcome. For me, all I need is a story. Like the duet I wrote, Heart's Christmas Blue. I mean, I wrote it in a few hours, and then we polished it, and away we go. And Ralph Carter put the music to it. And he's so experienced that he's that way with music in the way that I am with words, and we make it all happen. Emma Wilson jumped in and helped collaborate, and you know, in a couple of days we've got a song. A couple of days later we're in the studio. A couple of days later, it's out in the world.
That's great.
So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving us so much time this morning, and Merry Christmas. Best of luck with your Christmas tunes.
Thanks. Merry Christmas to you and everybody in New York. There, it's a beautiful country. Get the shovels out, folks.
That's right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Stay with us.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. but it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread misalignment.
Highest hospitalization.
Evacuation in the Western
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning. A couple comments from viewers. Mark writes in, must be that poll for governor. Must be due to the $200 checks Hochul handed out, if you believe the polls. I saw a poll last week where Stefanik was a point ahead of Hochul. Yeah, that could, you raise a good point. That would have been around the time the checks were coming in. One of the reasons why we received checks around election season. Coming from a different viewer, as for polls, the road to Democrat domination is paved with lofty poll predictions. It's their Santa Claus wish list. But if it doesn't work out, they write a new list. Thank you very much. You're right. That's why we read the polls, because it is newsworthy for you to know, to be prepared for what people are saying. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of reasons why they're not as accurate as they once were. There's a lot of reasons why they have certain organizations that want to be biased in what they're pushing. In this case, Siena shows Hochul leads Stefanik by 19 points. Speaking of New York, New York State has been forced to shift back to fossil fuel friendly in a new energy plan, but the green mandates remain. Governor Hochul's growing embrace of fossil fuels grew tighter as a prominent state board approved an all-of-the-above approach to powering the Empire State, while still spewing lip service to costly green initiatives. The plan by the State Energy Planning Board comes as Hochul increasingly slow walks the state's controversial 2019 climate law, while voters grow frustrated over rising energy costs. She realizes that she's got an election coming up. So she, therefore, needs to walk back some of these mandates, because the your costs are skyrocketing. It's only going to get worse. Hochul, in a letter accompanying the plan, argued New York needs to readjust its carbon-free approach, especially potentially catastrophic recent energy shortages. Quote, I will not risk rolling blackouts or gas outages. This plan reflects that urgency, she wrote, before blaming shifting economic and political headwinds for making threatening green goals. What does that mean? We also have to be honest. The world has changed since many of our climate goals were set. Supply chain shortages, post-pandemic inflation, and shifting federal policy away from renewable energy have increased project costs and slowed progress nationally. Ignoring these realities would not make us more ambitious. It would make us irresponsible. The state's landmark climate law aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 85% by the year 2050. Through phasing out of fossil fuel-burning vehicles and power plants, and requires 100% zero emissions for energy generation by 2040. But critics have argued such an approach would potentially cripple the state's economy and energy supply, at least in the near term. And we've talked about this with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano so extensively. We talked about it with the all-electric houses. We've talked about the EV vehicles, the EV buses for schools. The energy plan drew cheers from those critics for acknowledging the goals aren't feasible, although they argued Hochul still needs to change the law. None other than Assemblyman Phil Palmisano being quoted here at the New York Post. The fact of the matter is the Democrats in Albany's green energy mandates and march to full electrification of the grid are totally designed to dismantle the affordable and reliable natural gas infrastructure, supply, and delivery system. It's designed to take away consumer choice on how you heat your home, cook your food, power your building, and your vehicle you drive. It will jeopardize the reliability of our grid, leading to dangerous and deadly blackouts, and it will continue our nation-leading outmigration of more families and businesses leaving our state. Hochul has steadily walked back parts of the climate law to the growing chagrin of climate change fighting environmentalists. So that'll be a voting block, especially if she has a third-party candidate. Delgado probably won't get much of the support, but if she has a third party, Democrat Socialists of America, this could be a big problem for her, losing some of that support from the environmental fringe of her party. She delayed a controversial cap and invest program last year that critics warned would send gas and home heating oil prices soaring. And last month, Hochul greenlit a controversial President Trump-backed natural gas pipeline off the Big Apple's coast and stalled a gas stove ban for newly built homes. The new plan largely avoids giving details and maintains the state is still on track to meet growing electricity demand, an assessment not shared by Emily Nelson, the executive vice president of the New York Independent System Operator, which runs the state grid. Nelson, in an op-ed Monday, said the state's electric grid strained under high demand this summer. She wrote outages could be a risk in future hot weather. This is not a call to abandon our state's climate goals. It is a call to balance them when the urgent need for reliability, certainty, and resilience. The grid must be both clean and dependable, safe and flexible. We cannot afford to choose one at the expense of the other. Issues of health and safety and supporting the economy and environment are paramount. So kind of forced a little bit to move back to fossil fuel friendly initiatives. This is also to be considered as it is an election year. This could be like the congestion pricing in New York, where she said she wasn't going to do it, she was going to stop it, then the election was over and she put it in. So keep that in mind. But it's nice to see Assemblyman Phil Palmisano being quoted in the New York Post. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When I was in law school, my father had to stop working when he developed early Alzheimer's. Social Security disability benefits saved my parents financially. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Now I'm a lawyer who helps people when they need Social Security disability. If you can't work, I'd like to help.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton toll-free 1-800-698-0567.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
It's the wrap up the year sales event at Chilson Wilcox with huge deals on new vehicles all over the lot, starting with $11,300 savings on Ram, or ask about 0% for 72 months on new Ram Bighorns. Save $11,800 on Wrangler and save $8,400 on Grand Cherokee Limited. Save $10,200 on Gladiator and $7,400 on Voyager. And just announced, no payments for 90 days at the wrap up the year sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Ask about the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on new Rams. Hurry to save.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. This was a breaking story coming out yesterday. I meant to mention it earlier in the broadcast. The FBI did not believe agents had probable cause to raid President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate back in August of 2022. But former President Joe Biden's Department of Justice approved the search anyway. That's according to newly released records. Excuse me, I tried to combine documents and records. An FBI official even noted that agents had spent 6 counterproductive weeks trying to establish they had grounds for a search warrant, but they were eventually overruled by the Department of Justice, with one top official saying that he frankly didn't give a darn about the optics. We haven't generated any new facts, but keep being given draft after draft after draft, one official said in an email. Absent a witness coming forward with recent information about classified on site, at what point is it fair to table this? This bombshell detail were lodged in internal records released Tuesday by Senator Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He posted on X that the records were shocking, emphasizing that the FBI did not believe it had probable cause to raid President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, but Biden's DOJ pushed for it anyway. The Iowa Republican also claimed the emails and other documents were proof of a miscarriage of justice against Trump. Interviews with witnesses had also not yet yielded any proof that sensitive intelligence files remained hidden at the former president's estate, since a trove of them were returned on June 3rd, 2022. So very interesting that the FBI did not believe they had probable cause to go in and raid Mar-a-Lago, but the DOJ did it anyway. Boy, we got to get another break. Well, quickly, did you see that the head of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, rejected a viral claim made by Representative Ilhan Omar? Ilhan Omar is suggesting that her son was pressed for proof of his U.S. citizenship by agency personnel after being stopped at a Minnesota Target over the weekend. Omar had told the local television station that her son was subjected to a traffic stop type encounter by ICE agents, but was ultimately let go without further issue after he was able to produce a U.S. passport or passport card. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons pushed back on this assertion, saying ICE has absolutely zero record of its officers or agents pulling over Congresswoman Omar's son. It speaks volumes that Congresswoman Omar is leveling this accusation with absolutely zero proof. She called Omar's comments to the local outlet a ridiculous effort to demonize federal law enforcement. He also said her rhetoric contributes to a spike in threats against ICE personnel, citing a 1,150% increase in assaults and an 8,000% increase in death threats. Omar, who has 3 children, said her son had gone out for an errand when ICE purportedly made the contact. Her spokesperson told Fox News that the Democrat lawmaker stands by her account of the situation. The Congresswoman's son and others were pulled over by ICE, racially profiled, and forced to prove their citizenship with a passport. ICE has long operated as a rogue agency beyond reform. It's no surprise that an agency known for disappearing people also can't keep its records straight. ICE now claims it has records of all the stops, and her office would welcome the opportunity to review them. She also responded to President Trump calling her garbage amid a burgeoning fraud scandal involving Minnesota's Somali community. Omar saying it really is disturbing and creepy to have the President of the United States be obsessed with you and those who share your ethnicity. Everybody knows I came to the U.S. at the age of 12, gained my citizenship at the age of 17, she said. All right, we got to take another short break and then wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Oh, speaking of ICE, I know this isn't a politician. This is Leslie Jones, the former SNL comedian. She says she wants Democrats to jail ICE agents if they take back Congress after the midterm election. Keep that in mind when we talk about the importance of the midterms and how elections have consequences. So she wants Democrats to jail ICE agents if they win in the midterm. Stay with us. We'll be right back, wrapping up today's edition after this.
You know, William, with the name Camille growing up, I had a lot of nicknames. Camille Schmiel, Cammy, Camera, Cam.
Oh, I remember. Cam on the Lamb.
Chameleon. Charles. That was a weird one. Did you have any nicknames? Bill.
Bill.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Sophia A., grade 4, absent, because transportation was absent.
Julio M., grade 6, absent, because Wi-Fi was absent.
Maria J., grade 12, absent, because child care for siblings was absent.
Jacob O., grade 12, absent, because housing was absent.
Aisha S.,
Olivia H.,
Darren L.,
Cole W.,
Preston L.
Absent.
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 Because healthcare.
Anti-bullying.
Mental health support was absent.
We're calling roll on the 15 million absent students.
Their reasons why are very real.
And yet the solution is a present, caring adult to help them along their path.
When communities and schools is present, 99% of our students are present and ready to learn.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. If you're not familiar with John Kennedy, I highly recommend you go on YouTube, watch some of his hearings. Senator John Kennedy, he's got an op-ed out at the New York Post today, and he said the one big beautiful bill stands alone as 119th Congress's most extraordinary piece of legislation, but it doesn't have to. Under the Senate rules, congressional Republicans can use the reconciliation process to pass two more big beautiful bills with a simple majority vote. And we would be fools to let this opportunity pass us by. Here's the reality. Most of my Democrat colleagues would rather bathe with their toasters than support any part of President Donald Trump's agenda. If Trump endorsed breathing to live, they'd hold their breath. They can't stand the president, and that's their right. But this hyper-partisanship makes it nearly impossible to gather the 60 votes needed in the Senate to pass most legislation. With the 74 Budget Control Act's reconciliation process, however, the Senate under certain circumstances can pass major legislation with just 51 votes. That's how we were able to issue the largest tax cut in American history, secure the border, expand school choice, address Medicaid fraud, eliminate taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security, and end federal payments for abortion, sex change operations, and outrageous climate scams in one reconciliation bill, all without a single Democrat vote. And he goes through and talks about the success of the one big beautiful bill. But then he wraps up, and I know I'm out of time here, but these changes ensure that we have a functioning government. But to address the issues that keep moms and dads up at night, we need to pass new legislation. Some of my Republican colleagues continue to hold out hope for a bipartisan path forward. I would love for my Democrat colleagues to work with us to address these pressing problems. But you don't need to be Einstein's cousin to know that they're not going to have a bipartisan epiphany anytime soon. There's no Christmas miracle on the horizon that will give us 60 votes on any major reforms. The Senate Budget Committee, which is where the reconciliation process must begin, has been engaged in the very early stages of discussion to identify policy priorities we might move forward along that path. But so far, our caucus has failed to coalesce behind any real strategy. In fact, there seems to be some debate as to whether we can agree on enough to attempt another reconciliation package at all. It would be legislative malpractice to squander these two remaining reconciliation bills. The midterm clock is ticking, and the Republican majority in the House has never been more fragile. To my Senate colleagues, please, with sugar on top, do not waste this opportunity. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for all the waves. And we will be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When it comes to cleaning your house or business, Magic Rags Cleaning Service has you covered from ceiling to floor. With powerful steam cleaning and attention to detail, we have you covered for moving out cleans, move-in cleans, Airbnbs, or just keeping everything neat and tidy. We go above and beyond in our residential and commercial cleaning, and our professional crew makes sure that your house or business is always ready for company. Call our number or schedule an appointment on Yelp or Facebook today.